On the subject of MP7s, here is my Toki Marui MP7 gas blowback, and it suffers from an issue where most often at the time you try to use it, you'll always come a little bit over the limit of the site's joule limit or FPS limit. The TMMP7s, when you run them on green gas, propane, whatever you want to run it, they sometimes run a little bit hot. And I've talked about this for a while, about the MP7 NPAS that I've had in the works for some time now. Since September 2024 was when I first designed the original NPAS set that went in this. And I wasn't quite happy with it. And it got shelved for a long time. There was a couple of prototypes that I made and was testing it, and it was working fine. It was just a bit fragile. And someone it was actually one of the people at I bumped into at HC2 the one day, said, you'd mentioned this NPAS, when's it coming to fruition? And I was like, well, I'll get round to it eventually. And then on the Discord the one night with Jack and our friend Myriad over in the US, I decided to open up Fusion while they were in the call, and we just looked at it with an extra couple of pair of eyes on it, and I was just explaining to Myriad how I'd gone about it, and we just spitballed a couple of ideas on how to improve it, how to make it a little bit stronger. And then a light bulb went off and I changed something in it, and it made complete sense. And why I hadn't done that before, well, I don't know. So we're going to take a look at this again. I'm going to be basically showing you today that the MP7 NPAS is ready. It's been in pre-order on the website for a while now, and it was meant to launch and start shipping out at the end of March, but there were a couple of delays in manufacturing. It always is the case, but if you've seen it on the website in the CAD picture, here it is. They're all packaged, they're ready to go out. So I'm filming this on Sunday, which is the, let me just check here, the 12th of April. So all the pre-order NPASs are going out tomorrow, which is Monday the 13th. So what I wanted to do ahead of time is do a video showing you how to fit this, because it's pretty straightforward, but you just have to make sure that everything's lined up properly. So first of all, you'll take the bolt out, you take the 2 pins out the rear, you pull the stock, the recoil spring and the charging handle and the bolt, they all slide out the back. It's very easy to do. And there's a bit more of a write-up on the Jaeger Precision website on the product page, going a bit more into detail about how all this came about. So first of all, you're going to release this torque screw. It's a T20. And you're going to pull off the front of the bolt here. So you've actually got a metal piece here, and then this is all plastic, but it's just the one screw, and this pops off the front. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the MP7 out of the way so we can get access to this tool here. So I just want a little Phillips. If you want to know the size, it's a PH1, but as long as you've got something that properly fits this screw on the side here, you should have no drama whatsoever. So we're just going to pull out this little countersunk screw, pull off the little plastic plate, and then the nozzle return spring sits just behind it. So we're just going to let that fall out, keep that to one side. Just be careful when you're pulling that off. Sometimes they'll have enough where they'll pop out and they'll disappear onto the carpet. So pulling this out, we have the Marui MP7 nozzle, and the way that we take this apart, there's just one Phillips screw on the top. We extract that with the same screwdriver fitment that we've used, and then we basically just want to use something to push everything out. So this is a little broken flathead screwdriver that I broke the other day. I'm just going to get that, and I'm just going to push it in the front, and then hopefully it doesn't always come straight out. You might have to it's got like a little backing plate which do sit in a little bit tight, so you just pull this out the back or push it from the front. If you've got something a little bit longer, you'll pull your valve out and you'll pull your spring, and all you'll do, you'll take the NPAS out, you've got two parts to this. You've got the valve itself, and then you have the backing plate. So with the MP7 nozzle, you can't just do one part, because the way the backing plate sits at the rear, there's nothing like, let's say we did it like the other NPASs that we do, there's nothing to push off against. This is almost like a pistol style nozzle set, so you have to engineer the back plate. So it's very simple and easy to fit. You just have to make sure it lines up properly. So you'll put the nozzle spring over there. So this nozzle spring, you'll see this little bit of the spring here. This basically juts out into the middle of where the spring sits. And what I basically advise you to do, you just get a pair of little snips or something that can cut the spring, and you basically just cut this back so it doesn't stick in front of the way. So it usually comes into the middle here like this. And the reason you want to snip this back is because that will hinder you getting a tool in to adjust the NPAS. So you just want to clip that back to about there. Doesn't really matter all that much as long as you can get something in the center. And the NPAS valve actually only sits in one way, so it'll sit in like that. And you also have to make sure there's a little hole on the top of this backing plate. That has to be on the top of the nozzle to be secured in by the screw. So we're just going to place that in the back here, like so. It is a tight fit. And then we're just going to push that up with your finger all the way. So you can see there, we haven't done that correctly because the NPAS valve has shifted. That's fine. We're just going to push that back. So you'll see it just pop back into place there. And you basically just want to check that it hasn't rotated. I think this one has. And an easier way to do this would be to get a 1.5mm Allen key, which is what the NPAS is adjusted with. Get that to sit in the screw of the NPAS. You want to spin it round so you've got the big window facing down, and that's where it will fit perfectly into that backing plate. It can shift like that. So when that's situated in the right place, you're just going to push that backing plate all the way in. Make sure it's seated, so it's going to have to go in a little bit further, like that. And this line should be on this side of the nozzle. And you basically just want to check by looking down the top here. I can see it's got a little bit more to go, so I'm going to get something that's a bit better suited. I need something that fits down there, like this. Like there. See how it's snapped into place? So now, as I look in the top, it should be lined up with the hole. And if you look in the bottom here, you can see the valve is situated. So that green line should get seated against the back here, or the front of the nozzle here. So you shouldn't really be able to see it. And you're just pushing that in. If you don't push that all the way in, what will happen is the screw will sit in front of that plate. And because the plate isn't far enough forward, what will happen is the nozzle won't be able to go all the way back. So as you push it in, it'll get stuck. So a quick way to test is to take the nozzle, put it in. Does it go all the way to the back? Yes, then it's probably in far enough. So if it's fitted incorrectly and the nozzle can't go back far enough and it sits there, it will give you a dead trigger because the bolt can't return far enough forward. So once that's all the way in place, we're going to take the screw that came out the top. We're going to pop it into the top here. And as long as all that's lined up, should screw in just fine. You only need to go in as far as to like the screw head stops against the nozzle. Don't keep turning it, you'll just destroy the plastic. It's only really there to keep that backing plate in place. Once that's done, you can put your nozzle back into your bolt. You can take the nozzle spring, push that in place. Now what I do with these backing plates, might be a bit hard to see because everything's black in colour, but I basically place the backing plate like that over the spring and use it to push the spring down like that. So you want that spring to be fully behind that piece of plastic. So it's a very easy thing to fit. You just need to be aware of what you're doing, making sure you're not over tightening anything, especially with this screw on the side of the bolt here. You just want to bottom it out with a screwdriver. You don't want to over tighten it and destroy the threads. Once that's done, you can put the front piece back on. You can put the Torx bolt back in the front, and we can tighten this up here. These sometimes can be very tight because you'll see it had thread lock on it from the factory. I've of course took mine apart many times to test these valves, make sure everything moves freely. You could also use this opportunity to lube up the piston head on the blowback unit here. I'm just going to drop a bit of lube in. I've run out of this one pen now, but I'm just going to drop a bit of lube in. Make sure it's nicely lubed up on the sides. You'd probably be better doing this before it's fitted. I'm just making sure that cup's nice and lubricated because it was quite dry. And that is your bolt assembled. Now, obviously when this is in the MP7 itself, this will slide in, and when obviously this locks back, you're not going to have tons of space to adjust it, so it's not going to be something that you adjust through the hole in the side of the MP7. So you'll always have to pull it out, and you basically just take a 1.5mm Allen key. You can move it forward if it helps. Slot it into position. This one's probably not the right one to use because it'll sit at an angle. But I've got it in there, and you'll see the valve, if I tighten it up, it's going to move forward like that. And one thing you've got to remember on this, so you'll see how it's spun out there. Just want to be careful you don't do it too far. So I probably did it a little bit too far. You need very small adjustments on this, like that. So I'm going to return it back to normal. There we go. And then the easiest way I've found to put these back together is I just assemble the bolt and the charging handle, everything like that in place like this. You can of course do it separately. I just find this is the easiest way. Slot the guide rails in for your stock. Make sure all this sits together. Make sure the recoil spring is situated properly. Make sure your charging handle is clipped onto the back of the bolt, and then we're going to drop everything forward. I'm going to take the pins like that, and there we go. So I'm going to put a couple of rounds through this now. So to get some 0.25s. Should have had this prepared, but you know my style. When life's a million miles an hour, you just do it as and when you can. So getting some 0.25s in this speed loader here. Let's get them into the mag. It's not the easiest mags to fill. Just to check the operation. Have we got gas in this mag? I hope so. Charge it up, load a round in, and we're good to go. It's firing nicely, and you'll see where it was set to. We get about 1.1 to 1.2 joules. So, like I said, when you are adjusting the NPAS valve, it's the tiniest amount of movement. If you go too far, you can cause the valve to spin. It won't spin in operation. It's just because you've got a tool on, especially when I was doing it with the Allen key I was using was holding it at a slight angle as well. So test auto, See, everything's functioning great there. And that is how you fit the NPAS. So hopefully that's helped you. Just follow along with the guide as best you can. Any questions, jump in the Aga Precision Discord, link will be in the description. And thank you very much for watching. And from me and Bench, we'll be seeing you in the next one.